So I'm going to make some Christmas cards today, and I thought you might like to join me. First of all, I'm using these Uniquely Creative rectangle cards and envelopes. I don't usually use rectangular, I prefer square, but I've got them, so I thought I'd use them. I've cut a piece of A4 paper in halves, and I'm going to mask this off because I don't want to get any of this paste onto the back section of my card. I'm just going to line that up there, then put this tape right on that fold, and that will hold that in place and stop anything getting overspill. And I'm going to use this Kaisercraft Christmas tree, and it's called, just Christmas tree mini designs. I'm going to put that on there. So to fill that in, I'm going to use this Vicki Boutin CreativeFX Gold Glaze. To apply that through my stencil, I'm going to use my palette knife. I'm just going to cover up that hole there because I don't want to fill that in with the gold. And I'm going to sort of position this as about centrally. Although I might move it up a little bit so that I've got some room down here for my sentiment. So I'm going to get it centrally sideways and about there. And I'm just going to use my palette knife to fill in all of that cut out area. You probably don't need to do this sort of thing if you're very careful, but knowing me, if I don't cover it up, I'll certainly get stuff where I don't want it. I was thinking actually an alternative to doing it like this would be to use a piece of cardstock, like a panel, and do your stenciling onto your panel of cardstock, and then you could actually mat that onto some gold cardstock on here. But I think I'm going to, I like to have a bit of a border. Oops. So I might have to do something else in that respect. I've probably got a thick gold pen somewhere that I can draw a border around. So I'm going to put my palette knife in there. Then I'm going to lift my stencil carefully and drop that in my water as well. Not that there's a lot of water there. And there I have my Christmas tree. You can see there a little bit of overburden, whatever you like to call it. So I'm going to use this pokey tool, and I'm going to see if I can just scrape that out of the way. No, it's not going to budge. So that's just going to have to stay there as it is. So now I'm going to set that aside to dry. Okay, while I'm waiting for that to dry, I'm going to start on my second card. So I'm using another one of the card bases from Uniquely Creative, and I have cut a piece of this sparkle paper. I've actually used this one, and it is there. And I've cut that down so that it's, the actual card base is 5 7/8 by 4 1/8. So I've cut this down so it's 5 5/8 by 3 7/8. So I've just got a little border all the way around. Then I've cut another piece of white cardstock that is 5 3/8 by 3 1/2. And then I've cut a piece of pattern paper from this pack here, Paper Rose Pretty in Pink Christmas. and I've cut this paper here, and I've cut this down so that it's 5 1/8 by 3 3/8, so they're all going to layer on top of each other like so. And before I layer them though, I am going to distress the edges and ink the edges using my black ink cube. So I'm going to actually use this Tim Holtz distress tool this time. I have got this other one, this Prima one, and this is Discontinued. I find that this little one here is a bit more aggressive, and this one is a bit kinder to the paper. I'm going to use this one, and I'm going to distress the edges of all of my papers. So if you haven't got a distressing tool, you can of course use your blade on your scissors. Any scissors can do this, and you just scrape along like so. Okay, and then once I've done that to each edge, I'll just use my ink cube and just rub along the edge of that so that you get that nice definition for each paper. So I'll do that off screen because you don't want to watch me do that, and then I'll come back. So now I have put double-sided tape on the back of all of my pieces, and I'm going to now attach them to my card base. The other day I made a card and I had my card up the wrong way, so I'm going to make sure I've got it opening the right way this time. So as you can see, they're just stepping down slightly with each level, and the distressing around the edge of it makes it not really matter if you're slightly off centre with your placement, because you know, it doesn't really show up that much. This one I have to make sure I get up the right way so that the birds are sitting on top of the branches instead of falling off the branches. Okay, so that's my front. Now I used this die, and I don't know the name of it or where it came from, but I've had it for a couple of years now, probably 3 years, but yeah, you might be able to find it somewhere. I don't know whether it's still current or not. And I have cut them from this same paper. And a little tip, if you want to cut something a bit fiddly from this paper, don't, because it's got like a fibre in it, and it doesn't die cut very well. You can see all of those pieces there are supposed to come out, but they're still in there quite firmly, and even though it's cut right through, there is, like I said, a fibre running through that paper, like a fabric really. So I'm not going to try and pull the centres out. I'm just going to attach them as they are, and I'm pretty certain that there's no way in the world that it would take me all day to get those pieces out, and I'm just not prepared to do it. And plus I think they look fine like that anyway. So to stick those down, I'm going to use my liquid glue. I'm just going to run a bit of this art glitter glue around, and I'm going to run it over all of those bits so that if they do think they're going to come out, well, they won't. And then I'm going to attach them to the card front. I actually tossed up whether it was a good idea to take those pieces out anyway, because being just a thin outline on there, it may have got lost in that goldy colour. And I've got the outline, some outline ones here, and you can see that that one probably would have been alright, but I was wondering whether the gold would get lost on there. Actually, that colour looks fine on there as it is. But anyway, I'm going with the gold. So this one here was probably the one that cut the best. You can see it's actually loose on this bottom section, but not loose enough for me to persevere with all of the other pieces. So that's going in there like so. And then this one. Now this has got a whole lot of dots. I'm not going to make sure every dot's got a little bit of glue on it, but I'm trusting that that fibre in there will hold them in place. The die also cuts a little star, and I'm going to use my pickup tool to pick that up, put a little dot about there, and then put the star down on top of it. So that gets a little bit lost, so I think that I probably made the right decision by leaving those pieces in there. Now what I've got to do is add a sentiment. So I've got these cutter parts from Uniquely Creative, Once Upon a Christmas, and I got these last year I reckon, so they may still be available. I just keep all of my Christmas sentiments in this plastic pocket here. I've got various, these I've just printed on my computer and I can cut them out as I need them. These are off of old Christmas cards. Yeah, so there's just a collection of them there. Now I'm going to use this one and I'm going to trim it down because I don't really want it to be that big. I'm going to ink around the edge of that because you can see it's got that white piece there. I want to disguise that. And then I'm going to add a little bit of scrap cardboard behind it. Doesn't need to be that big. Yep. So add a little bit of glue to that. To that. Add some glue to that. Stick that on here. I was thinking of putting it right in the middle there, or I want it down there. Maybe about there, I think. Try and make sure I've got that straight. Yep, looks pretty straight. Okay, so there we have card number 2. Now I used a texture to draw around this border. This is the paint marker I used, and I don't like it. It's too simple. So I'm going to cut this off. First of all, I'm going to cut the back off, and then I'm going to trim it down. So I'm going to trim it down quite a bit. I'm going to trim it down so that I'm only just clearing the image. Okay, so now now I'm going to mat this onto some, I've got this Kaisercraft foil paper pad here, and I'm going to use one of these. I'm going to mat that onto there. So first of all, I'll distress the edges. Then I will add some double-sided tape to the back of this. And attach that to this. Okay. Okay, now I've got this Kaisercraft St. Nicholas paper. This one's called Christ Kindle. That looks like that. I'm going to use the red side and I'm going to attach that on there like so. I'm going to have about that much around it. Now I've put double-sided tape on the back of this just to make it a bit quicker. And I'm going to put the mat about that big. And now I'm going to trim that down. I'm going to try and make it so that I've got an even border all around there. Not that much. Okay. I'm just using this as a size guide to see how I'm doing. That's going to be like that. Okay, now I need to get a card base. So I've made a card base, just 8 1/4 by 5 7/8, scored at 4 1/8, and now I'm going to attach this to that. So I'm just going to use double-sided tape for that. And just centre that as best I can. And there we go. Now a sentiment for this. Where's my sentiment pocket? There we go. So once again, I think I might go for one of the black sentiments. Christmas wishes. Trim that down. Around the edges. And add a little bit of cardboard to the back of it. with my liquid glue. Seems to be a little bit blocked. So, whoops. So there we are. Looks a bit better. I'm happy with it now. Now for our next card, I'm making a square card and I'm using these Kaisercraft, Uniquely Creative cards and envelopes. And they are 5 1/4 by 5 1/4. Now I've got some gold cardstock that I bought at Kmart. So it comes in this pad. You can see there's lots of lovely colours in there. So I've taken a gold piece out of there. And I've cut that so that it is 5 inches square, and that's going to go on there. And then I've cut this piece of white cardstock that I've heat embossed with this Creative Expressions Fan Palms 3D embossing folder. And I've cut that down to 4 3/4 by 4 3/4, and I'm going to attach those there. Now to decorate this, I have used my Kaisercraft DD564 ornate baubles. This is an old die, I think, but it was on special at Kaisercraft when I was there the other day, so I purchased it. And I've used that same gold cardstock and cut those 2 baubles out, and they're going to be my decoration for my card front. I have got this metallic string. It's pretty fine, so I'm going to use that to attach my baubles to the top of the card. Right, so I haven't got any double-sided tape on these yet, so perhaps I'll put the double-sided tape on there and I'll come back. Okay, so I've got my double-sided tape on there, and now I'm going to attach this gold cardstock to my card base. Make sure I've got it the right way around so it opens in the right direction, although you could, provided you haven't gone completely off the track, you could have this as a top opening as well as a side opening. As a matter of fact, I might just do that for a change. So on there. Now before I attach this piece, I'm going to run my metallic thread through my bauble. First of all, let's cut a bit. And I'm going to add that to that. Perhaps first of all I will add I'm going to put a little bit of glue at the back there, just a little dob. Then I'm going to put that through there, like that, and hold that in place while that grabs. Then I'm going to decide where I want to put this bauble. Okay. Just hold that for a bit longer. Well, I can sit that there. And put some on this one as well. A little double glue there. And thread that through the hole and position it on there and let that dry. I don't want it to be too long and hang down so you can see it behind the other section of the bauble. That's why it's so fiddly. But I'm using art glitter glue, and once that grabs, it's pretty good. So I don't really need to worry too much about it once that grabs hold of that. Okay, so now they're dry, I'm going to attach my baubles to the front of my card. To do that, I'm going to use liquid glue. I'm going to try not to get it everywhere because I don't really want it to bleed out onto the front metallic card. It will, of course. Oops. I'm going to place it about there. Just hold it down a minute to grab. I'm going to put a little dab of glue just here and fold that over. And I'm going to just secure that on the back with some normal sticky tape. Cut that down because it doesn't need to be that long. And then I'm going to do the same for this one. So once again, we've got some liquid glue. You could die cut these, like put some, double-sided sticky paper on the back of this cardstock before you die cut it. Then you would just only have to peel that backing off and stick them down. Although, because I'm putting these onto a embossed background, it may not stick that well with just the tape or the double-sided adhesive sheets. So I think they're, put that up a bit higher. So I think the liquid glue is a better option, just a bit fiddlier. A little bit there to hold the gold string. Turn it over. I'm going to have to peel that off. So I've got some double-sided tape on there, so I'm going to have to run that under there. Make sure I've got that in the right spot so it's nice and straight. And then hold that in place with some normal sticky tape. I'll trim that off a bit as well. There we have our baubles attached to that. Now I'm going to attach this to my card base. This will be the last lot of Christmas cards I'm making this year, so I'll have enough after I finish this. Okay, so very simple but very effective, I think. Now I need a sentiment. So I got a package from Uniquely Creative today, and this was in it, and on the back it's got some Christmas sentiment, so I'm going to use one of those. It says it's you can do it with Essential Dies number 5, but I haven't got Essential Dies number 5, so I'm going to just use my paper trimmer to trim this down. Let me put it there. Perhaps I should get Essential Dies number 5 so that it's easier to cut these out. But I only want a thin, small sentiment on this. I want the baubles to remain as the focal point. So I'm going to ink around the edge of this with my black ink cube. This is a new ink cube and it's very juicy, so I'm just going to run around that with a tissue so that I don't end up with black ink all over the place, which has happened previously, I can tell you. So now I'm not going to put this on cardboard or anything like that. I'm just going to attach it to the front of the card flat. So some of these cards that I make I do post, so if I'm posting them I'd like to keep them reasonably flat. So there we go. So that's card number 3. So that's my 3 cards for today. I'll just have a run through of the 3. So this one is the one that I used the stencil and the paste through. Then I matted it onto a couple of layers, one being gold. And I've mounted my sentiment onto some cardboard. This one here, I've used glitter card here. This glitter card was the one that didn't cut all that well with the die cutting machine, my Big Shot. But it did cut enough that the shapes came out, but to pick all of those pieces out would have been way too time consuming and risk tearing the actual tree, so I didn't bother. But I think it helps them stand out on this particular card. And then there's this one here that I die cut using Mirri card and added to the front of my card that's been embossed with a 3D embossing folder, and added my sentiment straight to the card front. Now I did something that I never usually do. Well, actually I've never done it before. I created 3 of each and I did the others a little bit differently. So this one here, instead of having the pattern paper, I've just gone with the gold and I've left this panel bigger, and I've still mounted my sentiment on cardstock. So that's that one. This one here, I did a couple of different things here. So in the Mirri card pack that I've got, there's a red Mirri card, so I've used red Mirri card on this one, and my trees are, I've cut them in white, and then I've put a coat of this Nuvo drops. This one's called Morning Dew, so it's really just a clear one. There's no real sparkle to it, but it just got a little bit of a shine. So I've done that one, and this one I've done with the gold Mirri card, and the same treatment for the Christmas trees, but I've used green paper for that one, where I've got the red Mirri card, where I've got that green. So that's that one. And this one, in that same paper pack that I got this metallic paper from, they had other colours. So I've used the same layout, but I've used with this one a pink metallic card, and you can see I've also matted my sentiment on the pink card. So that, and I've done one in purple as well, and I've used a different folder in the background of each of those. So they're my lots of 3 Christmas cards that I've created today, and yeah, so that's the end of my Christmas cards. As I said, I needed 24 cards, and now this makes up my 24, and so no more Christmas cards for me this year. I've still got heaps and heaps of Christmas supplies left over. I could make Christmas cards, I think, for the next 50 years and still not use up what I've got. A bit the same as all of us, I guess. Anything that I've used in here that I think you might be able to use or find if it's still available, because a lot of this stuff's old stuff. You know, this is Saint Nicholas from Kaisercraft, and I mean, that must be 5 or 6 or 7 years old by now. Anyway, anything that I can find, I'll link in the description box if you're interested in having a look at it. And yeah, well, thank you for joining me, and I hope you can join me when I post my next video. Bye.